afternoon, everyone. Welcome to NGLCC LGBT Sip and Pitch Fridays. My name is Sabrina Kent. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a senior vice president here at the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce. We are so excited for today's program, and I want to say a big thank you to our friends and partners at Marriott International for presenting today's program with us. We have an exciting array of presenters coming up ahead. And as always with NGLCC LGBT Sip and Pitch Fridays, I have some exciting updates to share. The first is we have our Transvisibility Week programming coming up starting next week with an amazing webinar by LGBTBE Fluid Project called Embracing the Gender Expansive Community. We also have our first ever trans and gender nonconforming B2B and B2C matchmakers taking place on Monday, March 29th. And finally, we're doing a huge Trans Day Visibility celebration on March 30th. So we hope you'll take the opportunity to join us for these programs. You can register at nglcc.org. And if I have NGLCC team members on the line, if somebody could please drop our events page link into the chat, that would be awesome, so folks know where to register. We have some amazing judges here today. Our friend Casey Oakes, Director of Supplier Diversity at Marriott International. For those that have been with NGLCC for a long time, you know Casey as our former Vice President of Corporate Relations. So he wears many hats in the NGLCC world, and we're excited to have him here as well as to have Marriott presenting today's program with us. We also have an incredible advocate and leader, Deborah Quade, who is Manager of Supplier Diversity at Kellogg Company. Deborah sits on an array of councils for NGLCC and does so much work for us. She's also the co-chair of our Trans and Gender Nonconforming Task Force Community Outreach Committee. So thank you, Deborah, for being here today. And finally, a man who needs no introduction, Michael Robinson, Program Director for Global Supplier Diversity at IBM, NGLCC's founding corporate partner. Our very first corporate partner was IBM. And Michael leads an amazing ship over there in the supplier diversity world. And he even is making Zoom happen for us today, which is amazing. That's not something that he usually does. So thank you so much, Michael, for being here. As always, some rules and guidelines for Sip and Pitch Fridays. Each company will have 5 minutes to pitch. We will have one presenter from each participating company, and judges are going to have 10 minutes for feedback and Q&A. And if you're watching at home, please utilize the chat feature. We love your feedback and thoughts for our presenters as well. We're here to provide that real-time feedback in the spirit of collaboration and growth. Please mute your microphone if you're not speaking. That eliminates any feedback and allows us to ensure we hear everything our judges and presenters have to say. Lauren Schweppe from Team NGLCC is our timekeeper. Lauren, if you could say hello.
Hi, everyone.
All right, there's Lauren. She's our timekeeper. So she gives verbal warnings at both 1 minute and at 30 seconds remaining. Lauren is doing her job. She has to interrupt you briefly, and we apologize for that, but Zoom doesn't allow us to hit a gong or anything exciting like that. And then the last two most important items, this is a judgment-free zone. We are here in the spirit of collaboration and to help our businesses learn, grow, and succeed. And finally, most importantly, we are here to have fun. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Milo Shapiro with Freshen Your Photo. Take it away. You're on mute.
Sorry, I'm trying to get that was faster than I expected. So hold on 1 second. And back and screen share now. And I have to close Outlook so that will work. Sorry, that came faster than I expected. Here we go. So I am Milo Shapiro. Thank you, Sabrina. I am a public speaking coach and a motivational speaker and a team builder with improv games. But I have one more thing, and as they sang on Sesame Street, one of these things was not like the others. So I fell in love with Photoshop in 2000, and this was something separate. I called it Freshen Your Photo. It started with friends and family asking me for favors, like, hey Milo, I hate bags under my eyes and the glare on everyone. Can you make this look nicer? Can you take a few pounds off us in this shot? Hey Milo, my daughter's club met Michelle Obama, but can it just be my daughter? And suddenly I had a business I hadn't expected. And I loved learning everyone's stories. Initially, it was mostly faces and backgrounds. Oh, I squinted, I had acne, and the storage room looks terrible, so Shazam. I have a drab business image and a crooked smile. Fixed. Greg makes me happy, but our wedding day was gloomy. Well, not so much anymore. Next came bodies. Could I maybe just have a little more muscle in this shot? Or can you take the love handles off me and put my bed someplace exotic? How about, can you make me look like I did last summer? That's the after shot. And this request just kind of speaks for itself. Then came all kinds of creative alteration requests. A bland office doesn't look good on a website, so we tried a little of this and a little of that and made it look nicer. Remember our bride? She wanted something a little more snazzy and romantic for the day. And Laura's drummer wore the wrong outfit to the photo shoot. Rather than rebook the whole shoot, they had me resuit him. When you meet the president, you want all that chaos in the background. You want it to look like it's just you guys. Here's a recent favorite. Mom's not smiling because she's not happy that she's sitting next to the nasty ex-wife. So with a little bit of this, she's smiling now, and it's just her son there. When 7 out of 8 siblings made it to a reunion, that was a little bit bittersweet, but now they're all together in 8 frames in 8 different homes. And a great way to remember this shot for mom and dad without the aunt that nobody liked. I had the clever idea for the Christmas tree. The work was really in turning dad's head around to face mom. Then came the bulk of my work since 2006, restorations. I can change clean, crisp photos easily, but what if they start out like this? This was a before and after of a restoration I did from the 1800s. We start with the fades, and it's often a situation like this. With black and whites, I'm honored to be saving our past and history, including discolored ones that used to be black and white. So many are color to begin with, but either sun or bad paper has done the shot in. And other times it's not terrible. I mean, this isn't bad, but the color was mostly gone. Here, not so bad, but why not make it look really nice? Along with the fades come the scrapes and the tears and the stains. They can be really challenging to work with. So here's a few samples of that. This one came from newspaper. This was Joe Louis, famous boxer with a streak across him. This got scraped somehow, water damage on someone's mom, all fixed up, made to look nice. Then in 2014 came colorization. This was my first attempt, and you can see it was mostly a cleanup job, but I tried to put a little color in that too, which I thought was good. I was proud then, but as you can see here, taking this shot from 1910, I've come a long way, baby, in what I can do with color. Here are a few examples of where we could take shots and while we're repairing them, add the color to them, make them look special, because these people didn't live in a black and white world. They lived in color, would want to be remembered that way. This was her only shot in color of her dad and had faded to this. Now she has it like this. This one, wow, it was stuck to the broken glass. So we had to scan it right through the glass, then fix it up. And now it looks like this. The only known photo of this 1930s band now looks beautiful. Sometimes they even come in pieces, and I'm okay with that. I'll make it look as nice as that by the time we're done. Last and most challenging probably are extensions. Cutouts almost always require extensions to look good. So I make up something like what would have been there. In this case, not only is it terribly stained, we lost the top of his head. So I took care of that for them. And this shot,
1 minute.
This shot went from interesting in black and white to powerful in color to complete when I gave her back her missing feet. So with Mother's Day coming, they don't want a Groupon for bungee jumping or flowers that end up in the trash, but memories from their past will last a lifetime. And I never meet most of my clients, by the way. This was scanned in by a client in the Midwest, and I just sent this right on back to them. So you don't have to be here in San Diego. This goes beyond what most graphic designers do. So I'm happy to work with internal corporate departments on that.
30 seconds.
I'll give the last word to my mother then with 30 seconds left, shown here in 1962. As she said to a friend, and which I stole immediately from there, don't just tolerate your photo, freshen your photo.com. And that's me.
Amazing, Milo. Thank you so much. It's so cool to see what you're able to do there. Really, really incredible. So Casey, Marriott's the presenting partner today. So why don't you start? Any feedback here for Milo?
Yeah, absolutely. Milo, great job. First of all, masterful time management there. We typically are cutting people off at the 5-minute mark. Exactly where you were throughout. So I think that was great. When your first slide came up, I was like, I understand this business just from the first slide. How are we going to fill 5 minutes? And what you did really well throughout the throughout your presentation is really expand my concept as to what this business is or can be. And I think you had a great progression of the examples from something that's really accessible that everybody might need to things that increasingly get more nuanced or specific for folks. And I thought that was really great. And one of the ones I'll highlight is most of your examples were, here's the bad photo, here's how it got good. And then about halfway through, you did something interesting. You had the good photo and you showed how far it had come. And that was absolutely fantastic. The one thing I would suggest you ponder a little bit is this was a really great example of your capabilities, but I don't, as a customer, potential customer, understand from your presentation, how do I do business with you? Am I uploading one photo to the website? Is it bulk? Who is your typical client? How do we work together? I've been working with my grandmother for a year on writing a book on her life. I've got a whole bunch of photos. Do I just, you said scan at the end, but give me a little bit about what the client relationship is like and what the business model is, because I think that'll be really helpful. I am very impressed with what you're able to do. The missing link in a 5-minute presentation is just, how do you actually work with folks?
Thanks. May I address that? Is the time too really quick?
Yeah.
Part of the reason I didn't want to spend time on it is it's so different for everybody and it could use up half the time. So sometimes people mail me the shots, sometimes they bring them to me, sometimes they scan them, sometimes I have to send them to Kinko's. If the picture is bigger than their flatbed, they have to go to Kinko's. So we work through in each situation what the best way for that client is to get me the images.
Great.
Thanks, Casey. And Milo, I would just add to that, and not to steal thunder from our other two judges here, but I would love to know, as a part of your pitch as a potential customer, what does the pricing for this look like? I imagine it depends on the scope of work, but what is sort of the scale for that? And that's something that I would definitely add in to the pitch presentation so that a potential customer can say, oh, wow, this is really affordable and something that I want to do because I've got a library of images or something like that.
I've done as little as 20 and as much as I think 350. It's all how many hours the job is going to take. And most people at least have a sense of how bad their shot is, but not always.
Right. Wow. Thanks, Milo. Okay, Deborah, any thoughts here for Milo?
Absolutely. Milo, I thought you did a great job. I think you have one advantage over some of the other pictures in the fact that you have all the photos, so it shows so well, right?
Yeah.
But that being said, it was great storytelling. You had a timeline. I really appreciated the fact that you showed us at every step along the way how you are improving the process, that you're adding additional capabilities and things, because I think that's really strong in business. We're always looking for innovation and ways to do things better. And I think your story, to me, had a beginning and a middle and an end. You ended up quite nicely by, people submitting photos to you and things. So great job there. Don't really have any criticism, do have one suggestion. And that is, any one of these photos perhaps could have been like a corporate photo, like telling a history of a corporation. Like I'm sure Marriott and IBM have similar photos. We have some, like a group of women, wearing old time hats working, at Kellogg in the lab or something like that, right? And maybe a little bit of that, because it's increasingly important for corporations, and you see a lot of storytelling there. And then secondarily, you might tie into the fact that now more than at any other time I've been aware of is personal branding. And how can people, utilize photos for their personal branding? So maybe just a couple of areas of expansion for you, but definitely not a criticism. I think, you did great. And I agree with Casey. It's pretty rare that someone ends up on time. So
I practiced a lot.
But
and those are
thank
two
you.
great ideas. The personal branding, terrific idea. Like that therapist who I put in the brighter colors and crooked up her mouth. That would have been a great time to bring up personal branding. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great suggestions, Deborah. Thank you. Michael Robinson, any thoughts here from Milo?
Well, and I'll echo what everybody else has stated, which is true. Milo, you did a fantastic job. I love the pictures. I loved how you presented to everyone, how you started out, how you progressively gotten better, and the changes that you've made from colorization to getting out the wrinkles issues. It was fantastic. But from a suggestion standpoint, I'll just echo what you've heard, because I think it's critical. Most of the things that you were showing were more, I'll put it as a B to C, to that, more in that line. who's your customer? So define that a little bit, because if it's B2C, no problem. But from a corporate standpoint, it seems as if everything was from that individual standpoint. You're doing it from a personalization, from a friend to friend or individuals. If you're expanding into that corporate world, because as it was stated, there are a lot of old corporate photos, examples of holiday events, buildings and everything. What can you do in that area? And also highlight that contact information on it, because that's always, you talked about freshen your photos and everything. Here's where we're located. Here's how long we've been in business, to get that feel from that standpoint. Because from a corporate standpoint, and a lot of people don't like to say it, if you haven't been in business for at least 5 years, there's a question about your sustainability, because as you know, most business fail in that first 5-year time frame. So just put some of those little tidbits in it if you're focusing from a corporate standpoint also. But love the presentation.
Thanks. I did mention that I started the business in 2000, but that was in a flyby at the beginning. I probably could have made it a little more emphasis. But been at this a while, and I'm just expanding into corporate opportunities if I want to work with corporations for. But most of the calls I get are personal. So, but there's no reason it needs to be. As you mentioned, as Deborah mentioned, finding old photos from like a 1950 IBM company or something that had faded, it'd be lovely to bring that back to them.
Yeah, and I recently, not recently, it's 3 years now, but when I jumped to corporate, what I found interesting, and I'm sure this is true at IBM and Kellogg as well, is Marriott has a historian and an archivist. That is their full-time job, to record the company history. And so while your bread and butter today may be, people giving gifts or updating their personal photos, there may be a real opportunity in the corporate space should you want to explore it, because there is literally a person that you could be introduced to theoretically. The other thing I note, just on the consumer side, we saw, this is how I could use it, but one of the things that you might want to start to gather as well is examples of people who've maybe given this as a gift, or how they've incorporated the better photos. These photos are just all about emotion, right? And so if you've got a picture of a mom receiving a picture of her late grandmother that you've been able to touch on, like, you can really tell the story there as well. And that's something that might also just take this to an already very, very good presentation to another level, or help people think about how they might be able to, or why they might do business with you.
I have never been present when the picture was presented, but I could ask the person who bought it, could you snap a picture of that moment for me? I love that idea.
Particularly if you're still doing friends and family business or helping folks out. And I'd be happy to have a picture of me with Michelle Obama.
I can do that. And I can imagine much better introduction if you could point me toward that historian. That would be a great person for me to meet.
Thanks, Casey. Those are great suggestions. And I have two other thoughts, Milo, just as folks have been sharing things. I also think about the market within the LGBT community, and specifically the trans and gender nonconforming community, where looking at childhood photos can oftentimes be such a sore spot, because it's pre-transition and it's sort of this reminiscent idea of the childhood that one hoped that they could have had. And so even thinking about how you might look at particular segments of our community and help them sort of embrace their youth and history in different ways. It might be, an interesting offering as you think of, Transvisibility Week coming up, or Trans Day of Remembrance at the end of the year. And then finally, the last thing I would say is, you founded the company in 2000, or this part of the company in 2000, because I know you've got 2 certified businesses with NGLCC. And I will say, for a company that is about freshening your photo, your logo is awesome, but I would love to see you bring that more into 2021, because you clearly have such incredible Photoshop capability. Your brand should be able to represent, like, hey, just look at what I can do with my brand. Imagine how that translates to these images that I can edit for you. So those are my few thoughts there. But Milo, fantastic job. Your rehearsals definitely paid off. So great job. And I was really excited to see what you were going to do when you reached out about Sip and Pitch. So thanks so much for presenting today.
Thanks, Sabrina, and everyone. Thank you so much. This was fun.
Sabrina, before we move on, this is called Sip and Pitch. I just have to say, I'm sipping on this coffee. It's amazing. By this LGBT supplier, Kiko's.
Kiko's, my favorite coffee.
Oh my God, I love this drink.
Yeah, the Kiko's coffee is amazing. Maybe one of our supplier diversity team members can drop the Kiko's website into the chat. I personally drink like 3 different types of Kiko's coffee. It's become my new favorite, and we gave them out as gifts to our team last year as well for Christmas. So definitely recommend the Kiko's coffee, folks. Thanks for bringing that up, Casey. And I'm just sipping on La Croix. So if an LGBTBE wants to start making sparkling water, send it my way. Actually, I think we do have one. So anyway, moving right along. We have Carnegie Brazil. Take it away, Marcelo.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Milo, for setting the bar really high. And so I'll try to keep it at the same level. I'm gonna try to share my screen. The other presenter, stop sharing. Okay, let's try that. Can you see my screen? Yes, okay, great. Carnegie Brazil, as the name says, started in Brazil. I'm from Brazil, and I lived most of my life in outside of Brazil in the US mostly. My husband is American, and what we've noticed is that for Brazil is a country that has is the ninth largest economy in the world, but is the 59th in level of English proficiency in the world, and a lot of it is because of the high quality materials that you could use, children could use to learn English, didn't get to the right hands. So I ended up learning English as an exchange student in the US. And as I said, spent most of my life in the US, and decided that when I had the opportunity to have my own business, it would have been to solve this problem, right? To figure out how could people learn English better and more efficiently. And as we started in Brazil about 4 years ago, we're now this year expanding into the US and really looking at the non-native speaking population that we have throughout the United States. And the reality is many immigrants, non-native speakers, end up getting to the point where they learn in the environment and they kind of stop and give up trying to learn, say, listen, well, okay, either I'm too old for this or I will never learn. And so we decided to go, before we started Carnegie Brazil, and we branded Carnegie BR here in the US, but to really try to understand how people do learn a language, and with the assumption that the technological advances that we've had in the last few years, naming the internet, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, and so on and so forth, could make a real difference on how people learn languages. And as we started going through trying to learn what was available out there, we got to Carnegie Mellon University. That's where our name comes from. They have the Language Technology Institute, which is the most advanced in the world. And they have developed some solutions that really fundamentally changed the way people have learned English, which essentially uses a very sophisticated voice recognition technology, artificial intelligence, to enable students to be able to have a very specific assessment of their speech, and have artificial intelligence build a curriculum that is specific to what they need to learn. And this technology has been scientifically proven to accelerate up to 3 times language learning and enable language learning throughout the age span, no longer only for kids or only for the youngsters that still have that. Everyone today can learn and significantly improve their spoken English abilities by using this technology. So we brought that technology developed by Carnegie Mellon to Brazil. We have now students from 12 years old to 75 years old using it. And we have significant results within the spectrum. We did scientifically prove that kids do learn faster than adults, actually twice as fast, in fact. But adults do learn. And
1 minute.
And we've realized that English learning, and I felt it myself, that English proficiency is a fundamental way, a fundamental skill for career and professional growth. And so our business is B2B2C, so our clients are companies and universities and schools, but our users are employees, our students who are non-native speakers
30 seconds.
And who could benefit from having a more clearly understood spoken English. So we, as I said, we do partnerships with companies such as yourselves, and we have we could bring very advanced technologies, very affordable. Today, it could cost as little as $25 a month to use the technology.
Thank you,
That's my pitch.
Marcelo.
Not as nice and sweet as Nilo, but
no, I still completely understood what your product and service is, and I think that you did a fantastic job. So I am going to turn it over to Deborah to start with any feedback.
Yes, absolutely. And I too understood exactly what you were saying. I think the only suggestion I would have, and this is maybe just the way my mind works, but you'll understand what I'm saying because you've been studying how the mind works. So in my mind, kind of creating a beginning and a middle of an end, a little bit like what we saw, right, with Milo. So maybe a series of questions. First you tell people how we got started, because that's good and that's a strong brand. Carnegie BR, that's strong, right? But then, next, just posing the question. We wanted to know how people learn and how it's impacted by tech. And you don't necessarily have to get into a lot of detail there, because what you're really doing is just telling the story, bringing people along with you on this journey until you can say, AI, we have expertise in AI. This is what we discovered. And this is kind of the proof. And then you're spending more time on, that. And then why do people need this? Well, job proficiency, maybe students, exchange students and things like that. And again, having a story that kind of has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and then you can expand and you can shorten. So maybe set up a series of questions along the way. And some of the questions might deserve more time than others. And I think the way to view this is that the amount of information you gave us is exactly what you're going to need if you come in and speak with like a Kellogg buyer, because they need to know that detail. But for a pitch, you can kind of keep it at the higher level. Think of pitching like fishing. You're casting the line out and you've got some bait on it. And then when you get the bite, you reel it in. And that's really at the time when you get into a lot of detail. But I think you've got a great product. And I think, there's going to be a lot of interest in it. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the feedback. Yeah, the pitch is a work in progress. I've done this pitch a lot in Portuguese, not as many times in English, and the language barrier kind of gets me a little there too. But I really appreciate the feedback, and I think it makes a lot of sense.
Thanks so much, Deborah. Michael, any thoughts here from Marcelo?
Yes, Marcelo, good pitch, great pitch. Don't worry about that. Hey, you came across, I understood exactly what you were trying to do. At first, listening to you and looking at it, welcome to the English Revolution. I said, all right, translation company, how does it fit in? And then you migrated, talked about your past and the relationship with Carnegie Mellon and AI. I would ask you to focus a little bit more too, because that one chart you showed was on Carnegie Mellon and the things that they're doing. But now what's the uniqueness that Carnegie BR brings to the table from that standpoint? Also, highlight that, because someone will say, well, maybe I can get an extension course from Carnegie Mellon in the US and they can do that. So what is that unique process or program that you're bringing with it? Also, I was, as you were talking about it and going through it, one of the things that came into my mind was, well, how long is the program? How long does it take? Because you can give it on average, it takes, it's a 6-week course, 8-week course, or something of that nature, so that people can get it in their minds from the standpoint, I'm not fluent in English. If I take the Carnegie BR in 6 weeks, in 3 months, or whatever, I'll be more proficient, etc. So give them an expectation from that standpoint, which I think will be great if you add that to it.
That's great feedback, Michael. Thank you so much. As you said, there's so much information. There's like 26 slides that I was able to get to one, and choosing the right piece of information for the right audience. I think it's it kind of I think, as you said, it's right, choosing the right information, right, to be able to give that full picture.
Right.
I think it's something to work on. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and like I said, you had that one chart that you stayed on Carnegie Mellon, but you also always want to bring them back to Carnegie BR,
Yeah.
because that's your company and that's what you're selling, right? At one point in time, I thought you were selling Carnegie Mellon University, so you want to focus back into that area.
Right, you're right, yeah.
Thanks so much for those great comments, Michael. And before we go over to you, Casey, I want to call out, so you see this, Skylar shared that as a creative, I would highly recommend doing an infographic video showing the AI information. It's a quick and easy way to educate the consumer and friends about your business. Visual communication is paramount in a content-rich environment, makes the information digestible in smaller portions in mini vignettes. Great job. And then Ed added that they agree with adding more visuals, particularly on the video, but overall very interesting, and you spoke well. And then Skylar shared an example of what a graphic video could do for you. So definitely something you'll want to look at. But before that, Casey, any thoughts here?
Yeah, well, I am unilingual, so very excited to learn that adults can learn a second language, because I had given up that ghost. So like, I would say that's a like fantastic data point to throw into here, and actually like hooks the audience, right? Like, you may have this perception that adults aren't capable of learning a second language. Well, here's some research that we've done. I think my perception is that this could be a really crowded space, right? There's Rosetta Stone, there's Duolingo. So when you started to talk about what we teach people English in Brazil, you opened with a stat which was really strong. It helped articulate why it's important for Brazilians to have access to this level of education. What I found useful was the Carnegie Mellon point. That was an instant validator for me. Right? We're approaching it with a higher level, or at least that's what I got from your presentation, a higher level of research, this really great partnership. Carnegie Mellon is prestigious. I think some of the stuff that you might want to try and bring forward into the presentation is how the outcomes might compare to comparable other classes, right? Because you're not the only company teaching people a second language, but you do specialize specifically in teaching native Portuguese speakers English. So are you more successful at it because you don't do 27 languages like the other companies? You really do this one thing, is a question that I had, right? So, but I think the stats were really strong. The Carnegie Mellon partnership was a really great validator and had me interested in learning more. I think the other thing that I got the technology and the research piece. I don't know what that would look like for me as a learner. Am I sitting down at a laptop? Is there an app? Those are kind of natural questions that come up with this type of presentation. And so just if I had invited you to Marriott or somewhere for an hour-long presentation, I wanted all 26 slides. But in a 5-minute presentation, really think about what are the big questions that I can answer, either to increase interest or swat down skepticism, because that will really help you get to that longer conversation. But from just the 5 minutes that we had together, I really am interested in learning more about the company and why it is better. What are the differentiators? And I think we've got a minute 50, so I don't know if you want to chat a little bit about that.
I do. Thank you very much, Casey. The reality is that it's not only Portuguese. It does work with 65 different languages. and the differentiator is really its science-based approach, right? So the whole the platform was developed based on 30 years of research from Carnegie Mellon, and it does teach English 3 times as faster than any other solution that you find in the market.
Wow.
The other thing is enables learners to double their English abilities in only 10 hours of training, which is very powerful too. And this is something that's used today for foreign, the platforms used for foreign students from Yale, Stanford, Columbia, Chicago, and so on and so forth. So it is used, the technology itself is used by a number of top universities in the US.
I think that the points that you just brought up are points that would be in the presentation. I think though you just
They
hit
are
the
in
high points
further
right
slides,
there.
yes.
Now that you've had a
Yes.
chance to think about it, right? So now you have good ideas moving forward, because you
Right,
kind of,
yes.
it's like ding, ding, ding. These are the bullet points of what I need to hit.
For
And
sure.
you just did it. You won the grand prize right there.
Yeah, and those are great like attention grabbers for the
Yes.
very beginning. What if I told you we had a program that could teach you English 3 times faster, or could double your proficiency in just 10 hours, right?
Yep.
That gets
65
you-
languages.
Yeah.
Make it tangible, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
No, that's fine. But I would love the introductions to the hour-long conversations and Marriott, IBM, or Kellogg.
And so we're out of time on this presentation. Marcelo, really great job. I just might recommend for all your students, once they learn English, they might want to pick up a copy of Inclusion by Jennifer Brown of Jennifer Brown Consulting, a certified LGBTQE. I've been reading it. It's really a fantastic book.
Fantastic.
Well, Casey, we have an LGBTQ author coming up in the next session. So it's not Jen Brown, but maybe that'll be the next book that you buy. Marcelo, thank you so much. That was
Thank you very much
awesome.
for
That
the
was
opportunity.
awesome. And I have to agree with Milo here in the chat. That opening statement that Casey just gave you nailed it and is such an attention grabber, but you did a fantastic job. Thank you so much for pitching on Sip and Pitch.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So I have some unfortunate news that our final presenter today, Evolution Aura, we've been waiting for our final presenter to jump on the line, and unfortunately they have had a tragic death in the family. And so we just learned this about 5 minutes ago. So unfortunately they won't be able to be here. Hopefully they'll be able to come to another Sip and Pitch program. But I actually, they were nice enough to send their products to some of the members of the supplier diversity team at NGLCC. And so I was lucky enough to be able to get one of their candles, which I keep in my office, and it smells amazing. This is an LGBT Black minority owned supplier based out of North Carolina. And I just wanted to show you their website. Hopefully, like I said, one day they'll be able to come back to Sip and Pitch and actually share their products. But I think it would be so great. I love seeing when we have these product-based suppliers on Sip and Pitch, when people are typing in the chat, hey, I just ordered one, I just ordered one, I just ordered one. They have these incredibly, first of all, beautiful, beautiful candles. That have amazing scents. I have the Compassion fragrance and I love it. I turn it on for an hour once a day. Don't be shocked at the sticker price. These burn for 45 to 50 hours. So they are really high quality and beautiful, I think, additions to your home. And they come in these great boxes. Hold on. Oh, okay. They come in these beautiful boxes in which it's like, I'm going to rewrap a Christmas gift inside this box. It's gorgeous. So if y'all want to show some love to this supplier, I highly recommend you check out Evolution Aura. They were recently certified and are so, so excited to get engaged with NGLCC, and Ashley just dropped in their website link, evoaura.com. Maxine says, I have the rejuvenation scent and it's amazing. So definitely encourage y'all to check out this company. We're so proud to have them in the NGLCC network, and hopefully, like I said, they'll be able to join us again for another session. So before we take a quick break and move into round two, I just want to turn over to our judges Thank you so much for your amazing feedback over the last 43 minutes. I know that I've learned a lot, and I can tell that the two suppliers that we've heard from so far have also heard a lot of amazing things that are going to help them grow their businesses. And I would just love to sort of ask all of you, what your thoughts are as we're closing out of this round here. Any closing thoughts, or not closing thoughts, but thoughts as you're thinking about the presenters that we just heard from, or takeaways, advice that you want suppliers on the line to hear from as they think about their pitches as they come to Sip and Pitch in the future? Michael, let's start with you. Any thoughts or advice you want to share?
I just say I thought both of the pitches were fantastic, but in general, I would tell everyone as you're preparing your pitch, think about the audience that you are pitching to. Is it a corporation? Is it a customer, B2B or B2C? Who is that customer? And then think about how does your product fit into that particular line or business area that you're looking at? And then come back to what's unique about your product. What separates your product from everyone else? Because you've heard Casey and everyone talk about in some of the areas there, you have a tremendous amount of competition. So you always want to get across the point of what's unique about my product. Is it the responsiveness? Is it the value add? Is it the time saving? Is it the cost? What makes it different from everybody else, and what makes it stand out? And then we heard, look at your logo, your branding. All of that is essential, so that it's that old saying, first impressions does mean a lot. So think about getting across your message, being succinct, but you did a fantastic job. And thank you for having me today.
Thanks, Michael. We're so glad that you're here. All right, Deborah, any thoughts here as well?
I agree. I mean, the bar is set really high. So everybody, for the rest of the afternoon, deep breath, serenity now. I guess I would like to build upon that, the thought of who's our targeted audience, because people do have a very short attention span. And they're saying that about children, growing up now, that they're spending more and more time online, so they have a shorter attention span. But I think it's all of us, to be perfectly honest. So I think in something like a pitch, you really need to get your value equation and what differentiates you brought out very quickly. I would compare it to, it's almost like telling people, why should I continue listening to you, rather than checking my email or doing something else. And I would compare it to the old days of newspaper, where they would have the big headline and the story had to draw you in, or you wouldn't turn the paper over to read the bottom half of it. So modern day emails are that way. If you are not capturing me with the value you're bringing, or cost savings, or a service that no one else has or is better, then I may not scroll down in the email. And even with our minds working now in pitches, is almost like I need to hear something very near the beginning of what you're saying in order to hold my attention and bring me in. So again, value, differentiation, innovation, put something out there to really capture people's interest, and then just keep it short with bullet points, because again, a pitch is completely different than what you would speak, if you really were having that hour-long conversation. The pitch is to get people to the point of the hour-long conversation. And I think we all tend to do that. We all want to tell our stories, so maybe we expand and share too much information right at first. But I think it's a human characteristic, and we're all learning to be more succinct and tighten things up in the new era, right?
That's excellent advice, Deborah. And, I think about this age of technology and social media and instant gratification. Our attention span is even way shorter than it was in the days of getting our information through radio and newspaper. And so what are we doing to be that catchy thing? I want to say it's gone on certain apps like 10 seconds before you've lost, maybe less, 8 seconds till you've lost the user's attention. So what are you doing to differentiate yourself? I think that's really, really sound advice. So thank you for sharing that. Casey, final thoughts here, advice. You're full of a lot of advice. So please drop your knowledge bombs on us.
Yeah, well, one, I would say just super impressed with our first hour. A couple takeaways. LGBT businesses are not what you might assume they are. We had two very, very different businesses. Milo, serial entrepreneur, has two businesses certified by NGLCC, both very different. Marcelo, NGLCC Global, representing businesses that focus on the Brazilian market and headed towards world domination, I think, in years to come. And so really, LGBT business is not what you might just assume it is. They really can do almost anything. Another thought, I am going to buy those candles. I am a candle guy. I once got in trouble when I worked at NGLCC for lighting candles in my office because nobody told me I couldn't do that. So I will be buying those candles. And then I'm looking forward to hour two. I know we have a little extra time just because of this presentation. So I do want to just take a moment with National Trans Day of Visibility coming up to just do a little bit of recognition. So first and foremost, Mr. Michael Robinson. I don't know that you all know this on this line, but back when NGLCC was founded, supplier diversity was not on the radar, and IBM was one of the very, very few companies out there whose supplier diversity program was working with not just minorities, not just women, but with LGBT suppliers. And Michael Robinson and that team picked up the phone and said, we need LGBT suppliers to have an equal seat at this table, and really planted the seed and is the reason that LGBT certification exists. So as far as transgender visibility in the business community goes, Michael Robinson is a living legend. I also need to recognize Deborah and Sabrina, who have led this transgender and non-binary, non-conforming task force to greatly expand the number of certified transgender businesses in the certification pool of NGLCC. I sit on the certification committee. I see those files come in, and it is just jaw-dropping the expansion that we've seen in the number of trans businesses that are getting certified and showing up to the table. And I was at a meeting yesterday, and for the first time ever, my 4 files, I had a lesbian, a gay male, a bisexual, and a transgender business owner. Pokemon, gotta catch them all. I got all 4 in one certification meeting, and it was just amazing to see the full breadth of this community showing up because of the outreach that's happening. So as we head into May is all about trans, about Transgender Visibility Day. I just need to recognize the legends among us on this call who are doing the work of making this happen. And Ashley Brundage, I can see popping up in the chat, is on the call as well, and again, co-leads that task force as well, and is absolutely phenomenal. So those are my closing thoughts. I was going to leave that to the hour 2, but I knew we had a little extra time, and so just wanted to say all that.
Casey, thank you so much. And yeah, I want to say a big shout out to Ashley Brundage, who is, for a little secret for everyone here on this call, we will be announcing our new co-chairs of the TGNC task force, and Ashley is moving to co-lead the community outreach committee with Deborah, but she has been a part of this from the beginning, and it's really been her vision that has helped to pave the way. So Ashley is our immediate past chair. Thank you for all of your work. And I have a feeling y'all are going to hear from Ashley in the next segment. So before we go there though, I want to say another big thank you, Casey, to you and to Marriott International for sponsoring today's program. I also want to say I can't wait to get to a Marriott property and have a drink on a beach pretty soon. I don't know when that's going to be. I still haven't gotten vaccinated, but as soon as I can, I will.
Well, let me interject real quick. So for all of you missing the hotel experience, the Marriott Bonvoy boutiques, you can get that hotel experience right at your home. If you love the sheets at the Westin, you can order those. I have a Ritz-Carlton bed about 10 feet over that way. Michael Robinson, I know, walks around in his JW robe. So Marriott Bonvoy boutiques, go get some, actually, and that line of business for us is managed by a woman-owned company, Hotels at Home, out of New Jersey. And so check that out. I was gonna plug the candles, but buy the LGBT candles we just saw instead. But there's lots of great Marriott experience stuff at Marriott Bonvoy boutiques.
Drop the link in the chat. I'm going to get myself a robe for sure, and maybe some new sheets as well. That sounds absolutely awesome. But I will say in the few pandemic circumstances, which there have literally only been a few pandemic circumstances that I've needed to be in a hotel, I've always chosen a Marriott property. So thanks, Casey. All right. I, again, want to make nod for those that weren't here at the beginning of the program. Next week starts NGLCC Transvisibility Week. We so hope that you are able to take part in and enjoy these programs. We will drop the link to register in the chat so you can take part in our amazing Transvisibility Week programs. In fact, some of the suppliers that are on the line today are going to be a part of our programming. Thank you so much, Alicia, for dropping that in the chat. So please don't miss the opportunity to support our growing network of transgender, nonconforming, and non-binary suppliers at NGLCC. I'm so excited to be able to share with you some of the incredible things they do. So with that, as we move into our break, please, if you haven't and you just joined, go ahead and find the rename feature here on Zoom, add your pronouns in next to your name, help make this an inclusive and welcoming space. We will see you back in about 5 minutes. Go pour a drink, whatever beverage of choice you may have, stretch your legs. We'll see you back here in 5 minutes for our next round of Sip and Pitch. Sorry for the delay. I left my water in the other room. I had to run and grab it. Yes, to anyone that was wondering, there were special requests for Brittany by our very own Casey Oakes. And since Marriott International is presenting today's program, I thought I would do Casey a solid and play some Brittany for him. So if anyone enjoyed that as much as I did, there's going to be more to come later on. Welcome back to NGLCC LGBT Sip and Pitch Fridays. My name is Sabrina Kent. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a senior vice president at NGLCC. I got to catch my breath because I had to, as soon as that video was playing, I was like, I forgot my water. Just give me a sec.
Well, Sabrina, I'll just chime in. I worked up such an appetite in that last session. I've been snacking on these 5 North chocolates by LGBTBE Ben Conrad. They're really great, and they've really given me the energy to head into round 2.
Casey, you are a walking marketing campaign for our LGBT businesses, and I've got about 3 or 4 bags of 5 North chocolate in my cabinet. So I don't keep them on my desk anymore because that has become a problem in our household. So we have another exciting round up ahead for y'all. Before I do that, for those who just joined, we have some amazing events coming up for Transvisibility Week with NGLCC. We will drop the link again to register for these programs, but we so hope you're able to enjoy these programs with us as we celebrate Transvisibility Week and Trans Day of Visibility on March 31st. Thank you so much, Alicia, for dropping that into the chat again. We also have some incredible judges here today. You just heard from Casey Oakes, Director of Supplier Diversity at Marriott International, and Marriott is presenting today's program. We have Deborah Quade, Manager of Supplier Diversity at Kellogg Company. And Deborah's actually a mentor to Ben Conrad from 5 North Chocolate through the NGLCC mentorship program, in addition to wearing many other hats for NGLCC. And of course, Michael Robinson, Program Director for Global Supplier Diversity at IBM, the first founding corporate partner of the NGLCC. And if you were here for the last session, you heard from Casey about how Michael and his team were the ones that were so instrumental in actually planting the seed for the creation and existence of an LGBT supplier diversity program and certification. So thank you, Michael, for your support and advocacy for NGLCC and our suppliers. As we jump into round 2, for those who were not here, these are the rules of the road here at Sip and Pitch Fridays. Each company will have 5 minutes to present, with only one presenter from each participating business. Judges have 10 minutes for feedback and Q&A, and we love it when you drop your comments and thoughts and suggestions into the chat. That helps it to be a more interactive program, and it helps to ensure our suppliers can take away the most from this program, which is designed to provide real-time feedback for companies and their pitches. Please mute your microphone if you're not speaking so we can hear everything that has to be shared during today's program. And the incredible Lauren Schweppe from Team NGLCC is our timekeeper, and she provides verbal warnings at both 1 minute and at 30 seconds remaining to keep folks on time here at Sip and Pitch Fridays. Finally, our last two most important rules. This is a judgment-free zone. We're here in the spirit of feedback and collaboration. And finally, have fun. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our first presenter, Ashley Brundage of Empowering Differences. Take it away, Ashley. Ashley.
Hi. I just wanted to screen share. All right. Hi. Thank you. So excited to be here and talk to you a little bit about empowering differences. So empowering differences is the intentional action of using empowerment to grow your career development. And many of you may know me in some way, shape, or form as an advocate and champion for trans equality. And as you've seen me involving in the trans task force as an advocate and a speaker, I decided I really wanted to take a moment and take you back into realizing where I've come from. And so a little bit about me. I wasn't always an advocate and a speaker. I had to come and learn how to empower myself to be able to move forward. And so I found a job as a part-time bank teller. And navigating the world as a part-time bank teller was very difficult because my skill sets was much larger than that ability. But sometimes our diverse communities are sometimes marginalized. And so I wanted to be able to capture the real secrets to success and how I was able to go from a part-time bank teller to be the National Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion. And that's what led me to lead with empowerment. So I decided to lead with empowerment. And that's broken up into a few steps. And I wanted to share the first two steps, which is knowing yourself and knowing others. This is really the superpower that the trans community holds in order to impart on to our cis friends and family and allies. We need to be able to help you all see how we were able to do that, how we're able to survive. And so knowing yourself and knowing others is the two key elements to that first part of leading to empowerment. And so I have lots of amazing tools and resources to help with that from my company. And I want you to learn more about this empowerment process. So to see empowerment in action through your organization, you have the opportunity to dive in to my resources that I have, which is a really amazing online leadership development course for your employees to center and learn the key strategies and secrets that I uncovered in my career development that will help them with their career development. And so the third step is then developing your strategy. And the fourth step is these empowering actions that I mentioned. And so the empowering actions, I actually have them listed here so you can see all 10 empowering actions. They each have key elements to career development, and they each come with a video library session that's housed right on my website at empoweringdifferences.com, where your employees can go and access my website so that way they can be the holder of their career development journey and learn the secrets to success that I use to help grow my career. And so, of course, ultimately what we're talking about today is to use empowerment to drive change for your employees. And so that means that they should learn to raise their voice for others. They can showcase that difference brings value and impact for your organization. And overarchingly, everything that I'm talking about today that's offered through my organization connects all of the actions to leadership, and growing leadership for your employees should be a together mission of empowerment. Just like I had the actionable allies who were there by my side, Ashley's allies, and Whitney in the middle providing support, compassion, and trust. So empowering differences can be the allies for your company in growing all of your employees' leadership development for your organization. And I want to thank you, all of my friends, for being a part of this Sip and Pitch today. And a big thank you to NGLCC for inviting me to share a little bit about empowering differences and the major impact it will have by sharing these tools and resources with your employees. And I'll save my remaining 20 seconds for questions.
Thank you, Ashley. Fabulous job. And I'm going to turn my virtual background off for a minute to point out that, oh, well, you can't really see, but that white frame in the corner there, that it's propped up with my book. So thank you so much. I'm so thrilled that you were able to join us for Sip and Pitch Fridays. And to start, I will turn it over to you, Casey, since you've already featured one LGBT author for today's program.
Hi, friend.
Hey.
So awesome job. Really, I've seen a lot of activity from you on LinkedIn and Facebook about these ventures that you're working on. So it's actually really great to kind of dive in a little deeper today, and to really see the full breadth of what you've been up to. I think there are some really great things that popped out. One, I wrote down the word joy and underlined it. When you got to those 10 words, the joy in what you were presenting just like radiated through the screen. And I could tell that was kind of the maybe perhaps the part of your work that you're most proud of were these 10 items. And so incredible strength in your presentation. It is just building that, like seeing your passion makes me believe that your content might be stronger than what I could get elsewhere. You also said something that really jumped out to me. It was know yourself and knowing others. It's the superpower of the trans community and something that's leveraged us. So we've been able to leverage. I would actually, so you gave us what the superpower was first, and then you described it as a superpower. If you were to flip that and tell me there is a secret that the trans community has, it is our superpower. It's what helps us. It prepares me for this content that you're about to deliver, and actually makes me much more receptive or interested in it, right? Because now it's not just these phrases on the screen. It's really the thrust of the differentiator, right? This is why this is a powerful message. And I think just in general throughout the presentation, I think one of the things that I like to do when I have a presentation that I use a lot is sometimes I'll just switch slides around, the order of them, to see if things flow, if I find new ways to connect dots in my presentation. And I think this is a little bit of a newer product for you. So I would encourage you just to do that. Switch out some slides around, maybe talk about the full breadth of the suite of products, right? You've got a book, you've got the online course, maybe lay that groundwork first and see how that feels versus laying out some of the background first, right? Maybe if you set the table, that'll work better, or maybe it'll work worse, right? I think there's some fine tuning that you can find through that. That could be really helpful. And then the only other thing I would say is I trust now through your presentation that this would be helpful to my employees in helping them chart their career. One of the things we can maybe fine tune a little bit better is, why is that important, right? Why is me as the boss or HR manager, why is career management good for my company and helping these folks grow versus kind of the Darwin's theory that may be happening without providing these resources. So if you could articulate that problem, whether it be that female leaders maybe don't negotiate for raises as effectively, and this is why that's a problem, because then you lose them to turnover. Find some stats right there might make me more, might demonstrate the need a little bit more. But fantastic job, and I can't wait to buy the book. I can't believe I haven't already. I'm sorry.
No problem. Thank you, Casey.
Thanks, Casey, for that feedback. And Ashley just dropped her self-assessment as a gift for everyone here on Sip and Pitch. So thank you. Check out the links here in the chat. And I'm going to turn it over, Ashley, to your co-chair of the TGNC Community Outreach Committee, Deborah, to see what her thoughts may be.
Hopefully I don't get in trouble.
So first of all, I just want you to know that this was really emotional for me, because I feel as though I've been on this journey with Ashley, you know, from the first thought. And I feel like it's my little sister is just taking on just a whole new life and shining. And so, pardon me, the emotions. Um, and that being said, I would just like to say, Ashley, thank you so much for sharing your story. The emotions in your voice, you shared your vulnerability, you shared your challenges, you shared your successes. And that really resonated. And you really had us all sitting forward in our chairs. And then Casey's right. All of a sudden, you hit your stride, and your knowledge, your passion, and your leadership began to just shine through. And it was just the light turned on in the room. So thank you for bringing us all along on your journey. I'm not sure emotionally that you can keep this up. So you definitely are going to have to find some sort of a business presentation. But what I'd like to say from a business perspective is great job in having the follow-up. And I shouldn't probably say this, but it seems like a lot of times when I read like a self-help book or a guidance book, after I get done reading it, I feel really good, and then I don't know exactly what to do with it. But in this case, Ashley, you are giving us follow-up. You're giving us action items, you're giving us direction, you're giving us tools for our tool belt. And so great follow through. It's not just like a book that you read and then you think, wow, I feel really good. And then a few hours later, it's almost the reverse, because then it's like, well, I haven't done anything. So now I don't feel quite so good.
Right.
So absolutely. And yeah, one more, well, maybe not just one more, but just, quick slide this in before we go over to Michael. But thank you so much. As always, your leadership is so appreciated.
Thank you.
Great comments, Deborah, and I couldn't agree more. It's definitely emotional every time I see you talk about or present the book, Ashley, because I remember when you came into the NGLC office and you're like, so I'm gonna write a book. And I was like, okay, great. And here we are 3 years later. It's just been incredible to see you on this journey.
Thank you.
So last but certainly not least, Michael Robinson, any thoughts here for Ashley?
Well, I'll just echo what Casey and Deborah had stated. Ashley, I love the personal touch. I love the personal story, the beginning, how you started off part-time as a bank teller, the transformation and the passion which you spoke with. I agree with both. It touched me. I could feel it in your voice, and it brought me along with you. The thing that I will point out, if there is anything on it, as you were talking about the leadership and everything, that it could help with corporations. I would say talk about it, mention the leadership, talk about how it will, I'll say the impact that it will have to the company. What does leadership bring? Will it help them more from a strategic direction? Will it impact their ROI? Because you had talked about it, and from an HR standpoint, if this is a program that you provide, you want to give some examples of how it has impacted various individuals. Do you have any examples from, are you employing the program with any other companies right now? Giving some of those examples will be a great leeway for people to review it and say, all right, here's the impact I know it will have with my team, with my organization. I know it's probably in the book, and I'm like, Casey, I haven't had a chance to read the book yet, so I got to go on Amazon and look for the book when we get through. But you want to highlight some of that in the discussion so you can bring the team along with you, and they can talk to their HR and say, hey, I just read this and I know about this. I heard about it on the Sip and Pitch. It's a great book and it will help our team, and here's some of the results. So think about some of those items as you're doing the pitch.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that. And I think that that honestly, right, my example is my career development, and that's the big one. It's the fastest one that I can get to getting you to that point where you would say, oh, wow, I want to know what she did. So that way I can have every single one of my 50 or 100,000 employees do that. And that's what the fastest way that I feel like I can get to that point and build that connection for someone to say, hey, let's figure out how we can teach all of our employees to empower their differences. So that's that's kind of why I went in that realm. But yes, you're 100% right. I could cite individual examples of how I host book club discussions with organizations already, and how I host leadership development cohorts for employees, and I map out a schedule and a plan on how they can execute and read the book, but also really get that leadership development content, which is actually technically 11 guided videos that are housed on my website. And your employees will log in right on my website, and then they'll be able to connect and learn and grow through that. And I kind of saved that for this section of the discussion, because I felt I would build that interest to this point. So.
Yeah, and I would say, just as you kind of talked about those things, and Lauren's about to cut me off, but just as you talked about those things, licensing a suite of 11 leadership courses online is a big purchase, right, for a company perhaps, or it's a big investment. But you have the book, you have the assessment, you do public speaking, you do meeting facilitation. Those are kind of easier first dates, perhaps, for a large corporation or a potential client. And so to offer those, it doesn't make me think I need to go in and sell HR on this big suite of thing. We can maybe build that up the ladder, essentially, right? And so incorporating those components into it, I think, will really also help you get your foot in the door in a lot of places.
All fantastic points, Michael and Casey. And again, fantastic job, Ashley. Thanks so much for pitching as a part of today's program. And Ashley has dropped the link if anyone would like to buy a signed copy of the book, which is awesome, like what Deborah and I have. So thank you again, Ashley. And we are going to turn it over to, and I want to know, Diego, is it the people events or the PPL events? That's what I want to know. I've been trying to figure this out, so I don't want to botch it. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Diego.
No worries. It's actually the PPL events, but because it's an acronym, most of our clients and people that know us call us the people events. So yeah, my name is Diego Herrera. My pronouns are he, him. I'm the VP of operations for People Events. And we are a national event staffing and management company, and we focus specifically on COVID compliance, experiential marketing, and events. We are OSHA certified, and we have experience from very small high-end events to large complex programs for Fortune 500 companies. We build relationships with our brands by really understanding our clients' needs and becoming an extension of their brand. It is our mission to connect clients to qualified staff and talent that's trained to help them achieve their strategic goals. As a company, we are fighters for inclusion, for providing fair employment and support to our LGBTQ staff. Our staff is not just a number, but we build relationships with them. We're not only LGBTQ owned and operated, but our own workforce is composed of the community. So prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, we were the staff that would register you a sports game. We would find you seats at theaters. We would provide you product information in professional conferences. And then when the pandemic hit, we lost everything. It was a complete void, and we really needed to hunker down and think through what we could do to reopen safely and responsibly. We knew that we needed to treat this as an ongoing hazardous environment and as an experience. We knew that we needed a high-touch concierge service in order to deal with the public and with operations. We needed to actively educate our own staff when it came to reinforced COVID-19 spread minimizing policies and procedures, but also develop these procedures for other operations for our clients. So throughout this past year, we become leaders in this field. We have proven ongoing operations with the Chelsea market and other Google properties in New York City. And up to this day, we help them to continue to operate safely and responsibly. So what do? We can do a full assessment of any program, event, or property. Maybe you guys need better signage. Maybe you need help setting up a registration. Maybe you don't know the directional flows. You don't know what the requirements are for your state. We offer temporary to semi-permanent solutions, and our teams are the one that check you in. They take your temperature. They're really that inviting person behind the mask. Even though we're not able to see their smiles, at least we can see them what's the smile with their eyes. To educate our own workforce, we developed a robust health procedures training, and we created this role called health ambassadors. So what does these health ambassadors do? Our health ambassadors, they educate the guests when it comes to proper spread minimizing techniques. They keep a head count and enforcing guest capacity. Sorry, just give me 1 second. Enforcing face mask covering, keeping a head count and enforcing guest capacity, providing temperature checks if available, identifying bottlenecks and problem areas, enforcing social distancing, cleaning surfaces being touched, answering questions and addressing concerns, enforcing traffic flows and directional policies, and acting as a point of contact in any emergency. Having a large national team allows us to tackle really big tasks, but it is our efforts and capabilities in local markets that are instrumental to our ability to be flexible, fast acting, and responsive. Our local teams are our families. They're professional, they have a positive attitude, and they have outstanding work ethic. Together, we really thrive past challenges, and we lead any operation, no matter the complexity. When it comes to our service,
1 minute.
I just want to give you some quick points. What do we give you? We give you peace of mind. Take your mind off of COVID compliance. We have standard operating procedures developed and approved per program. These are procedures approved by Google and by the Chelsea market. Proven ongoing operations dealing with the public. Established escalation and communications channels. Proven screening and contact tracing taken care of. Pre-screening and contact tracing taken care of. Insured and fully trained staff. We employ everyone as a
30 seconds.
employee, and we have labor laws and regulations and we follow all the laws and regulation. And if there are any paid, any sick employees, we also provide paid sick leave and workers' compensation. We're proud to boast a workforce who's been training the appropriate protocols and procedures to help us get out of the pandemic faster. We're proud to have formed a campaign to do what's right, to protect our community, our clients, and our own. We're grateful for this opportunity. Thank you for your time. Stay healthy and safe.
Thanks so much, Diego. Really appreciate that. And love how you shared how you've really pivoted things during this hectic time that we all live in. So Deborah, of course. Deborah, let's start with you. Any feedback here for Diego?
Yes, thank you, Diego. You really covered a lot of territory, first of all. I mean, I was taking down notes frantically if you wondered what I was doing over here. One of the questions that I had for you is who your target audience is. What customer are you reaching for? And the reason I bring that up is that I think a lot of the really large corporations, even though we're still closed, have the protocol in place. So we have the temperature screening and a lot of that, and definitely us as a food company, because our operations have never shut down. So I think maybe looking at it and figuring out who is the target, you know, who falls within the category of companies that, you know, don't have the resources of a Kellogg, right? And you know, really gearing towards them and the office reopening, because I think your timing is right, and I think your offerings are spot on. And then I thought it was really powerful that you were talking about the fact that you had local teams on the ground. And I wondered if those local teams aren't a way for you to reach a lot of those regional corporations, right? I mean, we're surrounded by them in West Michigan. They're big companies. A lot of them are even shipping globally, but they're nowhere near the size of Kellogg. So if you had teams on the ground and they were identifying, yeah, you know, we've got numerous corporations in our region, it might really help you look at how to locate those companies. And the reason I bring this up is that the corporate members of NGLCC, for the most part, are such large companies that a lot of them quite possibly already have protocols in place. So how do you get to that targeted audience, you know, of people who need your services? And I say need because they truly do. And that might even be one way to look at this is leading your presentation or your discussion. Right at the end, you were saying, we bring you peace of mind. Well, what if right from the beginning you addressed the 600-pound gorilla in the room and said, you know, employees' stress levels have never been higher, and people are anxious about returning to work, and employees are very nervous, but we bring peace of mind. And that's the kind of opening that really gets people's attention. It's kind of that hook we were talking about on earlier presentations. And then you could get into some of the details of what it is that you do. But that's my recommendation. You know, my mind immediately started thinking about, there's so many companies that need your services, but how do you find them or get in touch with them?
Do you mind if I respond real quick?
Oh, please do.
That's the thing. We started doing this program with the Chelsea market, and we've had most of our contacts have been referrals, and we're specifically trying to reach decision makers when it comes to private property productions and events. We just did the upfront for NBC when they needed COVID compliance. They hired us to do that for them as a package. And we understand that this is a service that's needed for every program, every operation, every office, every activation will need some sort of COVID compliance programming that's applied on top, almost like as a security program. So now that we have this 1 year experience working along with very large partners such as Google and the Chelsea market, we're very confident in being able to really deal with the different circumstances that arise dealing with the public and with the different opinions that arise when enforcing COVID compliance. So I think through that exercise, we've really methodically worked out how to apply our expertise on the different operations that really require it, which we do agree with you, it's every operation.
Yeah, no, perfect answer. That's spot on. And the reason it was front of mind to me is that this comes up a lot in our discussions, sometimes on Sip and Pitch, is how do we get you connected with the people that really need your services? And so my mind immediately starts, thinking about that, who can I connect you with? What opportunities might there be? And again, just knowing that I live in West Michigan and it's tourism economy. And so already everyone is frustrated. Can we get our wine festivals, and things like that up and running? So that's kind of where I was coming from is there a way for some of those smaller festivals, right? You've got the big corporations, Kellogg shut down. We're not going to do any big events probably for this year, but there's still a lot of other opportunities that are out there. And that's what I'm thinking. And I wonder, maybe like the Michigan Tourism Association, right? Some of the big tourism states where they are in touch with those big festivals, trying to figure out, I mean, here in Michigan, Traverse City has a cherry festival that's like the third largest. It's right behind like Mardi Gras and the Rose Bowl parade, right? And they need you. So that's why I was, trying to think of how do we get you in touch with the right people? But great pivot. You're offering a great service, and I'm taking up everyone's time, so I need to be quiet.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you.
I appreciate your feedback.
Thanks, Deborah. Michael, any thoughts here for Diego?
Diego, great presentation. And Deborah, don't worry, as long as you're helping, providing information, this is for fun, this is to help. You're doing fantastic, don't worry. Diego, as I said, great presentation. You talked about the pivot, how you changed. The only thing I would add to it, and I wrote it down, as you were changing, it came into my mind, you talked about initially you're focusing on COVID-19, and I was waiting and I was waiting and I was waiting, and it was at the 2-minute and 44-second mark that you really dug into it. I agree that I would bring some of that forward first from the standpoint how you pivoted, how you changed, but then here's what we do. Here's how the value we bring to you. And just as Deborah had said, the peace of mind and everything you deliver to a company, because near the end, it seems as if you were rushing through some of those key parts that you had as you had up to the background in the chart and you was running through it. So I would bring those up first so that you could highlight and talk about the things that you do. Here's how I can help your company. company. And as you had said, you work with the properties with Chelsea, you started out. I would throw out NBC also. If you're looking for big corporations support and what you could provide to them, hey, we work for NBC also. We can provide this service at a larger scale to a smaller scale. It gives an example of all of the things that you can do. And the other thing, and Deborah touched on it also, and I'll just highlight it again. What's your marketplace? What's your footprint? Are you US, Northeast? You know, what's that market that you can touch and you can bring assistance to? So those would be the only suggestions I'd make.
Got it. Thank you for the feedback. I just want to clarify that we are a national company. So we do have capabilities in all 50 states.
Good, good. I would bring that out also.
I will make a point to voice it out. Thank you.
Great points, Michael. And Casey, we're gonna, if you want to go over time, that's no problem. But I just wanted to add in here in follow up to Michael's points. You know, it also, because we were on Zoom and you weren't screen sharing, you've got this beautiful moving background, but it took me a while to realize that your background behind you was actually changing. So I would definitely, because you had great information on those slides, so I would do a share screen in those situations so that you can be sure that when you're pitching in a virtual set, information is coming up right front and clear in addition to what you're sharing verbally. But Casey, I will turn it over to you for your feedback as well.
Reclaiming my time. I feel like I'm in the Senate here. Everyone's filibustering me. You know, Deborah and Sabrina and Michael give great advice. So a couple things, and I'll try and be really quick. One, it was fantastic. I think a couple things that really like grabbed my interest early on. Well, first of all, I'll say I feel your pain. We at Marriott do a lot of events as well, and we're in the business of gatherings, and so I feel your pain. I don't know if you were here for the last session, but Michael mentioned that for corporations, if you haven't been in business for 5 years or more, there is a question of your sustainability. What you really demonstrated in your presentation, without even talking about how long you've been in business, because of how strongly you pivoted through these circumstances, I don't question your sustainability. I don't need to really know how long you've been in business. So that really came through loud and clear. I do think you're a little pressed for time. So organizationally, I would say one thing struck me. You mentioned teams twice. You talked about the diversity of your teams, and then later on came back and talked about how their local knowledge and expertise was so valuable. I think those things could go together and save you some time on transitions. I'd also say there was a list of things around W-2s and sick leave and all that. I'd say in a 5-minute presentation, you can bucket that information. We don't need to get that granular, because what I would have loved to see in the presentation is some examples of the work that you've done with Google, with NBC. Those names are validators. They give you instant credibility that I can bring you to Marriott, I can bring you to Kellogg, because I know you play with the Fortune 500 to 1000. So give us some examples or pictures of some of the stuff you've done. When you mentioned OSHA and state laws and regulations, you took a problem that on the surface anyone might assume they can do and made it seem really technical, and that you had the expertise to solve it. And so that was fantastic. And then the only other thing I would say is that as a company, you had differentiators and expertise and things that you were doing beforehand that were really great. If you can marry that with what you're doing now on the safety, what from the before times is still ingrained in the business and makes you the ones to work with beyond just the safety stuff. The safety stuff is crucial and we need it. But I think there is stuff from the before times that could also really take this to the next level. And I yield the floor.
Casey, that was very, very good feedback. I'm going to take it put it into the work.
But really great job. Oh, sorry, Deborah.
No, I was just going to say, I would think a short video clip of how, for a large crowd or an event, how you can move people through and keep them safe. It wouldn't have to be long to signify or build confidence, right? But that might be the perfect opportunity. That's all.
Thank you. And we're in the process of making those videos, just step by step.
And I think too, just to Deborah's earlier point around getting those introductions to the right size companies that are really the sweet spot for your company. You think about the NGLCC Corporate Partner Network and think about like the stadiums they own, for example. So I'm currently in Florida. We just had Super Bowl at the Raymond James Stadium, for example. And how can you leverage the Corporate Partner Network at NGLCC to get in front of the stadiums they own? On Long Island, the New York Islanders are building their new hockey arena. How can PPL get in front of, I think it's UBS that's supporting that. So just creative ways to also think about how you engage with this network at NGLCC to get into that sweet spot that you're looking for. But awesome work overall. And we're so glad that you were able to pitch, Diego. So thanks so much.
So Priya, before we move on to the next, and I think final presenter, Deborah mentioned wine festivals, and it just reminded me, we're in Sip and Pitch. I actually switched from coffee to wine. I'm drinking this really great wine I found at Trader Joe's from the McBride sisters. It's a Black woman-owned vineyard in California. They're long lost twin sisters, reunited, and then opened up a winery together, and it is delicious. So just wanted to announce that here. It's Sip and Pitch. Please pour yourself a glass of something, and let's get to this last pitch.
Wow, Casey, I thought Marriott was supposed to send bottles of that wine out to everybody, but I guess you missed the memo on that one. So
I delegated it to IBM. Did they not?
It's in the mail.
We actually have a new supplier that's certified called Gentleman Farmer Wines out of Napa, and it's LGBTQ owned wine company. I've got 2 bottles that I'm saving for a special occasion. So I'm very, very excited to try it, to have a vineyard in the NGLCC fam as well. So thanks for that plug, Casey. And thanks again, Diego, for your great presentation. Brian Hall says, Casey's my hero. Keep pitching these wonderful businesses and their products. Well done. Ditto. Yeah, I agree. You're doing an amazing job. All right. So with that, I am going to turn it over to our final presenter. I can't believe we're already at our final presenter of today. Wow. But don't worry, stick around. We've got community and conversation coming up, and that's where the wine does flow and the conversation flows as well. So we are going to turn it over to Amita Mehta with AMP Consulting. Take it away, Amita.
Okay, can you see my screen share?
Yes, and we can hear you too.
Terrific. Thank you, everyone. Gosh, how do you follow up against Ashley and Diego? I don't know. This is I feel like I'm on Shark Tank right now. So, it's got a little bit of the nerves going, but thanks for having me. And it's just been tremendous hearing the feedback from everyone on the pitches. But I launched AMP Consulting in 2017, but really made the leap in 2019 after I decided to officially leave my corporate job in financial services after 25 years. And and based on people's feedback, I think I'm going to lead with my unique value proposition. And I'm trying to move along in terms of the pages here, but anyway, I'm having a little technical difficulty on my slides. But as far as my unique value proposition, I would say it's very much focused around being a Ugandan refugee, being a lesbian, coming out late in life in the Indian culture, and then having a tremendous career in financial services after 25 years. And so I decided to take a bet on myself and follow my passion for service and focus on 3 prongs, which is career transition services, which is focused on individuals. And again, talk about how timing works these days. People's jobs are impacted, and they're really taking a time to think about what do they want to do with their careers. And so I work with individuals on making their career pivots. So it varies from financial services folks from Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan. I even have clients from the fashion industry and marketing. I also work with organizations in terms of career transition services, in terms of helping them make sure that they are caring for their talent when they're in this transformational challenges, And so when they have impacted employees, I'm taking on talent and helping them transition into new opportunities. So it not only serves the company in terms of taking care of their employees, but also preserves their brand. And then the second prong is D&I, or diversity and inclusion consulting with organizations. So I help organizations get organized around their objectives, around key initiatives that they want to focus on, and talk about, again, timing in this year when we're dealing with, institutional racism, and how this has come to be. But my experience in global diversity at JP Morgan Chase really has lent itself well. And I'd say one of my most proudest takeaways has been being able to focus on developing transgender guidelines. That was the impetus back in 2005, and really helping organizations make sure they have appropriate policies and practices to support all underrepresented groups. And then the third prong is motivational speaking, and that's really focused on authentic leadership. And so that's just something that has just been a passion of mine, and putting myself out there. People describe me as a bit of a unicorn. You don't really see that many outspoken lesbian Indians out in the space, but it's been tremendous in terms of the financial services experience that I've had that has lent itself well, because I was very opportunistic, and now here's my chance to serve people and take my own advice that bet on yourself, and you can really see what's possible with your careers and your passions in life. I think that's it, and I apologize about the slides. I had a little bit of a snafu with them, but yeah, I'm just going to pause there and stop. Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, please do. I'm ready for the questions. Have at it.
I was gonna say, I love your energy. So don't even apologize for the slides, because I was so just engaged listening to you speak. And from, one queer Indian woman to another, I gotta say, like, when we're the only ones in our family, we pave the way for the rest of them. Like I said to all my cousins, I'm like, you don't need to worry about anything else. Like, I've already done this for you. But then I'm the only, girl that goes and talks to the uncles at family gatherings, and the rest of the cousins are hidden off in the corner, afraid to have those combos. So I totally relate. And just appreciate all the energy that you brought to today's presentation, because you know what, the reality of the world that we live in is technical snafus are going to happen, and you dealt with it with grace, and you just moved right through, and your energy was powerful. And plus, I just love this photo of you. So it was great.
Thank you. Because life is not like this. It has not been. It's been, a slog at times, but to be able to have a presence right now where I'm helping people and helping serve them, and helping organizations and be in the walls, knowing that there are so many things that I could bring to the table. It's just phenomenal. And yeah, I do get the, from family members, like, why do you have to be so out? And it saves lives, and it helps create allyship. And so this is why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Well, thank you for that. It is so appreciated. And Michael, let's start with you with your feedback.
Amita, love the presentation. And I will tell you, from my standpoint, even though your slides may have become entangled during this environment we're in, and we used this word before, you have to pivot. You have to show your flexibility. That's a part of doing business. So the slides stopped, but you continued on. So I applaud you for that. And again, that shows flexibility. The thing that I loved the discussion, loved your overview. The thing I would suggest is, once you talked about your history coming from financial services at JP Morgan, and I said, all right, first I thought maybe you were consulting in the financial services. You came into career transition, talked about the transformational, then the D&I portion, and being a motivational speaker. Those are a broad area. And if I had a suggestion to make, I would say, pick out that strongest area that you're a part of. I mean, that your business or consulting focuses on. If it's just you or if you have a team, what is that key area that you can bring your advantage to, what's unique about it? Because what you want to do is you want to get into that door, demonstrate the value add that you're bringing. And once you get those customers, then you can broaden the spectrum of services you provide. Because as any company, be it IBM, Kellogg, or Marriott, we look at it and we say, here is our niche. Here's the product or services we're providing. And then there are supplements we add to it, just as from an IBM perspective, we're in consulting, we're in services and so forth. So is it your focal area, the career transition in D&I, or is it the motivational speaking part of it? So I would say just focus on those areas where you have that expertise, where you have your unique niche in it, and then you can expand as you start working with your various clients. But I love the presentation overall, and thank you.
Thank you. That's very, very helpful. And you know what, that's an interesting observation, because it's all began organically, focused on the motivational speaking. And then being all things to everyone when I left the corporate arena, because clearly I've got a brand. And after that, with the pivot, the pandemic, then it started transitioning more to the career transition services, and of course the continued D&I consulting. So it's been like sort of like, you know, navigating this sort of landscape and pivoting. But I think that that's fantastic in terms of, yeah, I can focus on one thing and branch out.
Right. Think about your history at JP Morgan. As you would say, here is our specialty. Here's the service that we provide to you so that your client has that knowledge. Here's what I'm going to get. And because you can't be everything at that initial meeting, because then it's like, all right, what's her niche? Is it all of these? Is she's committed to it? So that would be the only suggestion, but loved it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Excellent feedback, Michael. Thank you. And Casey, I will turn it over to you.
Sure. So fantastic job. I have very, very similar feedback to Michael. Can I ask, is this picture the start of your slides that we didn't get to?
This was the start, and then the next one was going to be the unique value proposition in terms of, I had Idi Amin up on the screen. He had me as a basketball player. He had me speaking. So it's somewhat similar to Ashley's. It's sort of like my journey, and then, you know, and then the corporate brands that I've been working with, to your point. So I was like, oh, this is great. But then of course the technical snafu.
No, so it's fantastic. Like that picture is so endearing, and I feel like I just get a sense of your energy and your passion just from that photo. So even though we only got to see one slide, I'm glad that was the slide we got to see, because it really just, it sets the table for us to really want to know you a little bit more. And then you also said, I'm pivoting from what I've heard to start with my unique value proposition. I'm a lesbian, I'm a refugee, and I've got this financial experience. If you're comfortable, I'd encourage you to even share a little bit more. What was that like? What were the learnings from spending 25 years in the financial services industries with these identities? And how has it informed kind of what you're about to present? Right? Ashley said, this is one of the superpowers of being transgender, is that you get this, right? So tie your experience to the expertise that you're about to bring in. I think the career pivot work is absolutely fabulous and absolutely like a smart pivot for right now, or even long term. One of the things you said is I also work with large organizations. And sometimes when we're talking about large companies, we can get a little lost. There's 550,000 people who wear a Marriott name tag around the world. I wouldn't know from that statement who to introduce you to. So I work with HR departments at Fortune 500 companies, or just help me figure out your audience, figure out who am I introducing you to? Who would you be valuable for? And sometimes that's a title, a department, or sometimes this is the goal that I solve for large organizations. And that could be multiple teams, right? But help me figure out through how you talk about your work, who I'm introducing you to. The D&I stuff, super clear. The transgender policies, super clear. But some of the earlier stuff, it was like, okay, where am I taking her? Who am I introducing her to? But you're so authentic that and what I loved is that there was a slide issue with your presentation, but your presentation was not about the slide issue, right? And you were able to roll the punches, and we got 99% of what we would have got if the slides were up. And the fact that you didn't belabor it and didn't even try to troubleshoot, you're like, we're just going, was fantastic, and exactly the energy you need in a 5-minute presentation.
Oh, this is so helpful. Thank you, Casey, because I think that's great, because in terms of who is the actual audience, so you could say organization, individuals, yes, right. Yeah, I get a lot of solicitations that way, but in terms of who to focus on within an organization, that is great feedback. Thank you.
Absolutely. Super excellent feedback, Casey. And I agree, totally just went right in and we didn't miss anything because the slides weren't working. So, and having done many sip and pitch programs now, I can tell you that sometimes it does become a distraction if the slides aren't there, because if you had taken that time to try and troubleshoot what was going on and you had already rolled into your story, you wouldn't be able to devote the attention that you did to sharing your story. You're like, all right, this isn't going to work. We're just rolling. And I really appreciated that. So Deborah, let's close out here. Any thoughts for Amita?
So before I even get into anything else, number one, Amita, you won the internet with your photo. You're getting so much love for that. And I think, again, having been, present in a lot of sip and pitches, this is something to stick a pin in, because we do sometimes have technical difficulties. So lesson learned, make sure your first slide is something that captures the audience attention. Because sometimes it's nothing more than a logo, and then you have 5 minutes to speak with a logo, right? But the fact that it's engaging, people were really looking at, you have a lot of energy, we're reading into it. And I think that there's a tremendous lesson for everyone on the call to be learned there. So kudos to you again for, picking up the ball and running with it, as the saying goes. The other thing is, when you get a chance to scroll through the chat, you're getting a lot of comments. People are hearing a lot of catchphrases and statements that you're making. I mean, a lot of what you said is really resonating with the audience, and you'll have a chance to look at it. But what struck me was when you actually said authentic leadership. And then that kind of was what brought it into me. And I thought, under the banner of authentic leadership, these are the offerings. You're a speaker, you have ED&I, you assist employee transition, right? And that's kind of what comes under authentic leadership. See, Casey and I think alike. And so I just felt as though you had a lot of really good, I guess what I'm saying is, don't throw away the chat. Because exactly, thank you, Brian. You can save the chat, right? Because these are all talking points that people are sharing with you that they heard you say that really resonated with them. So you've had a lot of help in phase 2 of your presentation. I think the other thing might be, again, a little thought around target audience. And I don't mean to be redundant about this, but sometimes we're busy, we're looking at those really big corporations, and that's where you came from in your history. But I'm thinking we have a lot of very big certified LGBT BEs, and they all need the training that you've just mentioned also. So maybe really look to, can you offer NGLCC some training for one of the webinar Wednesdays? Make sure you're active in B2Bs, because what you have to offer, everyone who has employees needs. So don't always look at the Kellogg or the Marriott or the IBM and say, this is my target audience, and kind of miss everyone else. Because I see that even in physical trade shows. People will look and they'll see, just for example, Delta Airlines, and they're driven to get to Delta, and they miss all the other potential networking and potential customers along the way. So that would be my other thing is, look around and figure out how many companies really need your services and how you can gear your services towards them.
Thank you so much, Deborah. That actually reminds me of when I was looking for my first job. I was at a career fair in college, and everybody was running to the Chase line. And then I actually moved to a local regional bank line. knowing that, wow, I might be able to make an impact with the farmers that help my family. We settled with the Amish. And so created a niche around farm loan lending and church loan lending, and was able to serve the community that helped save my family. So I think that's a great point. It doesn't have to be big. I think it's sometimes you're like humbled quite a bit sometimes coming from like major corporate brands behind your back, and you feel like, that's where you need to focus, but that's not necessarily true. So thank you for that light bulb.
I love that feedback, Deborah. And just going back to that idea of this being the opening slide that grabs your attention, it just goes exactly back to what you were saying before in round one, which is, what is that attention grabber that's going to draw me in and keep me engaged? And so you definitely had that here. And I want to say again, we've had such incredible presenters during this round. I've been so inspired by all of you. Amita, I think you could probably write a book hearing just about the little things that you're saying. So maybe we've got another author on the way in the NGLCC LGBTVE community. I want to make sure everybody sticks around because we've got community and conversation coming up next. If you have to drop, which we hope you don't, but if you do, and you are trying to figure out how you can pitch for NGLCC Sip and Pitch Fridays, you can go to nglcc.org/sip and pitch. There's an application right there, and you'll be able, oh yes, Priyanka Chopra. Okay, lots of good feels there. But you can go to nglcc.org/sip and pitch to submit your application. Please note that we have a ton of submissions that come through, so we get to them as quickly as we possibly can. But everybody does have to wait their turn, but this is a really exciting program. So if somebody from Team NGLCC could drop that link into the chat, I would be most appreciative. And I want to say a big thank you once again to our incredible presenters that we had today. Freshen Your Photo, Carnegie Brazil. Unfortunately, Evolution Aura wasn't able to be with us, but I have my candle burning next to me, so maybe y'all have gone and ordered your candles as well. Ashley Brundage with Empowering Differences, the PPL events, and AMP Consulting. Thank you all so much for presenting today and sharing some of your expertise with our group. I want to say a big thank you to Marriott International, of course, for presenting today's program, and to Casey, Deborah, and Michael for being our fearless and esteemed judges. You have provided such incredible feedback, and we really love to see judges that are so engaged in Sip and Pitch like y'all were today. So do not leave. We are coming right back for community and conversation. Take 5 minutes, stretch your legs, pour your drink. This is where we start sipping and the pitching winds down. We'll see you back here in just a few minutes.